What is going on, guys? I am James, your lore master of the Lore Reloaded. Today I want to welcome everybody for showing up, for coming in to hang out. It has been a week since we've had these conversations. I am super excited to see all of you guys. We got Shrone Moore here. Of course, we got Josh Street. Hey, if you are watching this video on demand, you know what's about to happen. I'm about to tell you about a couple things. Check out twitter.com/lore reloaded. Definitely check me out there. If anything happens to this channel, then you definitely need to go there because I'll be telling you what's going on. There's a lot of dancing going on, a lot of conversations, just a lot of fun. And of course, sometimes I play video games. I'm going to start doing that a lot more at twitch.tv/lore reloaded. With that out of the way, let's say hi to some people and then let's just get into it. And let me know how everything is going, all the sound and stuff. Again, first time being back for a while. We got Emperor 15, who thought I was starting in 30 minutes when I actually started in like 3. We got Neil C. My time away was good. I feel a lot better. I've gotten I got recharged. Of course, as always, it's still a process, so I got things that are impacting me. Overall, I'm feeling better, though. Thank you, brother. We got that one night. What is going on? We got Thomas Potts, already said. We got Dat Fish Boy. Dat Fish Boy. Didn't get a dance, but you will at some point. Fancy Teeth, as always. Fun to see you. 100% American Buffalo is looking for the sick bay, as well as Common Sense America. Hey, guys. The party can start. We got Common Sense America and Zeron the Gamer. All right, so we're going to start this out. And this is really going to be a free-for-all. And we can talk about whatever you guys want to, but I'm just going to get it started out. Yeah, the fleet is actually accepting people. If you check on our Discord, we can definitely get you set up there. Give me a second. I will share my Discord right here for you guys. And my Discord is right here. So click on that. Okay. So let's just jump into it. Transwarp. For those who don't know, I'm talking about the movie where we had the Excelsior and it had Transwarp drive. The common perception, the common belief is that the Transwarp drive failed and was never used again, which is why we don't see it. This, of course, came in some licensed material books as well. If you've watched this channel for any time, you know that I am not a fan of Transwarp, a fan of licensed books or anything like that, because they don't listen to them. They don't care. They go out of their way to, in fact, not listen to what's going on, right? And so the question becomes, what happened to the Transwarp drive itself? And I have a theory that I would love to hear you guys discuss. And of course, we can talk about whatever you guys want to. It'll just be, it's freeform, people. It's freeform. But the idea that I have that was brought up by some fans is that Transwarp actually didn't fail. It actually was effective and it worked. And so that's why we see, and Mystique already went in and just Mystique spoiled it for everyone. But the Transwarp drive became the TNG scale, which is why we see in the original series to TNG, there's this drastic jump. And so from there, we know that the Transwarp itself ultimately was a rousing success. There is no evidence that it ever failed beyond what we saw in the movie. And so I'm curious what your guys' thoughts. That makes everything fit together for me, honestly. It makes it make a lot of sense that the Transwarp ultimately wasn't Transwarp as we think of it, but was just a higher scale that they became used to. The question is, did Sulu have what? No, it was the Tribbles. It was not the Tribbles, good sir. Not the Tribbles. Mystique, the cute blue alien, says, oh, shoot, sorry. That's just always been my belief. Well, I was messing with you, Mystique. No big deal. Emperor 15, theory. They learned that Scotty so easily sabotaged it, so they never mass-produced it, since it can be effortlessly disabled, potentially standing a ship's enemy in territory. Yeah, Emperor 15, that is possible that it was, it could easily succumb to sabotage, but then again, you have to explain the TNG scale, which fits so easily, and it makes it work, and that's why you have ships in um, the animated series that are going warp 23 and warp 15 when they're not really going warp 15 or warp 23. They're going warp 1 on the TNG scale, warp 2, warp 3, warp 4, and all of that. Good explanation. It's not perfect because you have to explain why uh, they didn't just call it the Transwarp drive or whatnot. But that's my theory. I think I'll be doing a video that'll probably be coming out on Monday on my discussions about it and how it worked. But I'm curious, what are your guys' thoughts on it? And what do you guys want to talk about today? Again, we can talk about anything you want to. I wanted to have it a little bit laid back. Ora Takawa Tinga says, I got a notification lag. Well, at least you got a notification earlier than generally. Most people get it like an hour late or something stupid. Bird of Prey 5, any complicated system can be easily compromised by the chief engineer. Well, I bet that is fair, I think. TNG warp drive is the same way. Remove one chip and no warp drive. Sure. I figured the warp drive thing was similar to Celsius versus Fahrenheit. It's not, though, when you take a look, because the next generation warp, how they move and the distances and everything, while they do have an issue with consistency, is far faster than the original series. I mean, it is drastically changed. And I guess I should have looked this up. I don't know the real world reason why they decided to do that. I think it was just story related. But I do know that it moved away quite. They threw out it. They didn't care. They threw the book out. And probably because they wanted to get farther, the more I think about it. Because we know that Gene, when he did The Next Generation, he wanted to have space tamed. The original series was supposed to be cowboys in space. And The Next Generation was supposed to be, well, now we've won. We've tamed the frontier. What does that really look like? David Deister says, my idea is that during a battle with the Cardassians, the Excelsior was badly damaged, and in an attempt to escape the drive, they exploded, leaving the ship badly damaged beyond repair. Okay. I'd be curious why you think that, if that's just headcanon or you're basing it off of anything. Tazungari, or the transwarp test actually failed, but led to new knowledge of warp tech and faster engine. Now that's possible. That they never got transwarp to work, but they figured out how to do it. One of the things in real life is that we pay for scientific research and find things out that is not at any point related to the conversation or what it was. Multiple fixes, multiple things that helped humanity started with research that didn't originally go there. So that's definitely a possibility. When did Starfleet switch from SSD chips and optical data chips? During the Voyager era, whenever Voyager came out, I would assume. That was, to my knowledge, the first ship that ever moved away from optical chips and things like that would have been, if you're talking about isolinear, from optical to isolinear or from isolinear to biogel, would have probably been during Voyager and that new line of ships. Star Trek is supposed to be realistic, right? Depending on the episode and the series, but in theory. The scientists that discover it named it wrong, and a century later all decided to keep calling it warp and use transwarp for real transwarp. Okay. Did you see the USS Defiant versus the Millennium Falcon by Generation Tech? I saw the thumbnail. I am subscribed to them. I have not watched the video. I've actually been gone most of this week. Fancy Teeth has been helping me out quite a lot. And so I really haven't done much beyond that. Star Trek First Contact Enterprise went all the way from neutral zone to Earth in relatively short time, so I think you're right. Okay. The entire purpose of the TNG scale was to have warp 10 be infinite speed. The original series scale didn't go to infinite, best I can tell. Yeah, they just picked a new number. you had a ship go like warp 23 or something stupid like that, especially in the animated series. And I completely understand why Gene didn't want the animated series to be realistic. Or to be considered canon because of some of the stupid stuff that they did there. Just like little heart medication that helped men with stamina problems. Okay. If Transwarp actually just was standard TNG era propulsion is like that, might explain why we see all those Excelsior class ships still running around. They aren't actually out of date speed-wise. That's an interesting theory, and I didn't think about that, but one of the reasons, yeah, I mean, I could see that as a justification. Since it was the first ship that had the TNG warp scale, they would have a lot more of those because they started using those, and it was the frontline ship for the longest time. Until you started seeing the Ambassador class ship, which replaced it. So, yeah, I could see that. Hello world, hello lore. The Defiant destroyed the Falcon. Okay. No, those were isolinear rod ships. Were shown from the first series of TNG. Okay. So they got the warp scale from the same place Spinal Tap got their speakers. This one goes to 11. Okay. The original Enterprise went nearly 1,000 light years in under 12 hours, while over 100 years later, the Voyager needed 80 plus years to cover 70,000 light years. So no, the TNG warp is not faster. In fact, according to the writing, it is. Which episode are you referring to, Ralph? Because that seems like there was more to it than just that. It didn't seem like they did that just based on warp. But again, Admiral Saval bringing up a good point. 72 people are watching and only 18 thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up or that thumbs down. We need 85 thumbs up or 85 thumbs down. Do it. What if the original Transwarp computer, solid-state ships... What if the original Transwarp computer, solid-state ships computer, but Transwarp needed more power and Excelsior class, hence they needed the isolinear. I mean, it's possible. Gene had the idea put into his head by a lawyer that said he wouldn't be taken seriously if he was connected to a cartoon. He was pressured by others to disavow tests. Yeah, I've heard that. I'm not convinced of that story. That his lawyer sounds like a scumbag. I'm not convinced that's actually what happened. But I will say that there was quite a bit there. Anthony Dukes, I did enjoy my vacation. Thank you. Dahawk86 in the house, arriving and liking, as it should be. Well, in Star Trek V, they made it to the center of the galaxy in a day or two. Makes it seem like the whole galaxy is in reach. Yeah, Star Trek V had a lot of issues, including a barrier in the middle that never comes up again, the ability to do all kinds of crazy things, and it really was very broken in yeah. Star Trek V is just horrifically written. I think we can agree. Lori, stop. How do we know that Starfleet actually never stopped working on the Transwarp drive? Maybe they didn't. Maybe it all went to Section 31. Let me ask you this question. So Anti-Trekker brings up an interesting point that I'm thinking of doing a video about. Do you think that weapon technology changes or stays the same? So let me give you an example. Do you think the photon torpedoes utilized in The Best of Both Worlds is the same type of photon torpedo that was used at the Battle of Sector 001? So when you had Oberths and you had Mirandas and you had Nebula-class ships firing photon torpedoes, those are the exact same type of photon torpedoes that you had fired from Akira-class ships, that you had fired from Steam Runner-class ships, that you had fired from the Defiant. Or were they updated? Because that would have been what? How many years? from Battle of Wolf 359 to the Battle of Sector 001, we're at least thinking, oh, that would have had to been 5-10 years, right? So, I mean, does the technology change? Because I'm of the opinion, personally, that the technology actually did change, and it did update. Just like you had guns during World War II, you had similar guns during just like you had guns during World War One, you had similar guns during World War II. But those guns would have been enhanced. They would have used bullets, similar bullets before. Those bullets would have been changed. The ability and the need, finding out how to better kill an enemy is always progressing, especially after the Battle of Wolf 359. But the thing is that there are no canon references that I know that show that there was a change to it, right? But what are your guys' thoughts? By the way, Tim Hayner, what's going on, buddy? I don't know if I said hi to you or not. Park Maxwell. Well, we know that weapon frequencies can be changed. I would assume that they altered them to be more effective against the Borg. Probably same type of weapon, but better tracking, larger antimatter charges. I mean, that's like saying a World War II torpedo is the same as a modern-day torpedo. The overall basis of them are the same, but the yield and guidance are better. I feel like the Enterprise antimatter distraction was the basic idea for the Starfleet renovated and fleshed out into the casings by the time Sector 001 rolled around. See, that's what I'm thinking. A torpedo's a torpedo, right? If you fire a torpedo... by the way, Nathaniel Croshaw becoming a lore master. Thank you so much. But if you fire a torpedo during World War I and you fire a torpedo during World War II, they're both torpedoes. They both have a similar stance, right? They both have a similar way of going about it, but one would be more advanced, you would think, within the years that came. Even if they used almost all the same components. Now, Anti-Trekker has said that that's doing the work for them. I think it's more logical. One of the things that I think people get confused about is that the way I look at Alpha Canon is a couple ways. First off, if it's on the screen, it's definitively on the screen. But not everything's on the screen. So we have to use inference and logic to move forward, right? So if you see the captain in engineering, and then it cuts to another scene, and the captain is walking out a door onto the bridge, we can assume that logically he went from engineering to a turbo lift to the bridge. That's just logical. That there's not a doppelganger, there's not two of them, that something logistically happened there. So when you look at how weapons are developed and the fact that they're constantly being developed, when you look at Wolf 359 and the absolute almost near destruction of Earth, and then you consider what would have been done in that time, even if they stopped and didn't worry about the Borg, there would have still been advancements up to that point. Then it's logical to believe that the weaponry advanced. Edict Hawk says Janeway directly says Voyager has different photon torpedoes than the ones in use a year before their launch. Okay, I didn't know that. I'd be curious where. I assume the torpedoes were updated over time. Ben Henderson, welcome to becoming a lore master. I assume the torpedoes were updated over time. Looks might be the same inside, but would be different in advanced. Lore Reloaded. In terms of historical context, we should think about the Navy. Every once in a while, there is a new invention. For the most part, most changes, just improvements with the same base principles. Sure. In the episode Dreadnought, they directly say the torpedoes have changed. Well, then I think that would make sense. I don't remember that. Taking your word on it. In fact, I will use that during my discussions. So let me type that up. Voyager, Dreadnought, photons. Trip the Trippy One says, the captain of a starship has a personal transporter to move him about the ship without having to walk or use turbolift. Exactly, but he walks away from the turbolift to make him look important, right? Captain George in the house. Hey, Laura Reloaded, how was your vacation? Was very good. Kyle, what's going on, buddy? Quantum torpedoes were an upgrade for sure. I completely agree, Anthony. You also have the upgrade of the phaser cannons, which were pretty powerful as well. No, William May, you rock. You rock. And by the way, guys, this is, again, just a free-for-all for those who have just joined. Please, if you want to talk about anything else, want to get me on anything, I'm going to be here for as long as we can have a conversation, then I'll probably jump off. There's not going to be a video today, but I'm going to hit it hard starting next week. And also, if you're watching this, also consider helping the lore grow by checking out my Patreon, patreon.com/lore reloaded. All kinds of behind the scenes stuff that you guys would enjoy. Quantum torpedoes are different size from photonic torpedoes. And they are. And in fact, they have greater capabilities. They have the ability to phase in between shields. So if you're fighting someone and you fire off quantum torpedoes, there's a good chance that it will just bypass the shields themselves because they're phasing in and out. Quantum torpedoes are pretty powerful. They can be game changers. They can be game enders, honestly. I'm surprised that the Tal Shiar and others haven't mimicked that, honestly. Was the change from ball turned turret phasers to phaser strips ever explained? Seems like they dropped the change in there. It never was. The interesting thing about that, though, is when you take a look at turret phasers, and I think they're called something else. I don't think they're called turret phasers. But when you look at turret phasers versus phaser arrays are generally more powerful and have the ability to fire in more directions than what a turret phaser can. And you don't have the issue of malfunctions and the turret phaser just locking in. The array itself, or maybe it's a bank. I think it's an array, though. The array itself charges up and just hits whatever you're going to attack. My question is, on the strips themselves, or on the arrays, it's either called a phaser array or phaser bank. I think it's a phaser array. If you hit the strip, you hit the array, and it cuts in between, we know that the arrays themselves charge up to hit. So they charge from either side, touch each other, and then hit whatever they're going after, right? If you can cut that strip, do you disable the phaser itself? I'm kind of on two minds of that. Early TNG makes it feel like you have to charge up phasers. That there's when you activate phasers, there's a bank that they go into of energy that stays there, right? And so when you use it, it uses up all that energy, and then you just have to restart. And so my question is if you break that phaser strip, can they still fire? Just it wouldn't be as powerful, or would it be disabled? Touch each other. Giggity says Cryptic Streams up in the house. Or Atako Tinga says, I think Star Trek Voyager Living Witness was a better representation of a post the original series mirror universe than we ever got in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Well, your rebuttal assumes that there is a rebuttal there. I'd have to think about that. I think Star Trek Voyager Living Witness was a better representation. Voyager never did. What was Living Witness about? Voyager Living Witness. Oh, I got you. Yeah, I know what that was. Yeah, I agree. I would have loved for that to have been the realistic Mirror Universe. I don't have a rebuttal to that. I think Deep Space Nine did horrific in the Mirror Universe arc. It was fluff. They didn't care about what happened in the Mirror Universe. They were just throwing something to have something. I'm a big fan of Deep Space Nine, but when it comes to specifically the discussion of the Mirror Universe, they dropped the ball because they didn't care. I'm not too hyperjack. Phaser bank equal capacitor. Phaser array equals where the beam is actually fired from. I don't think you're right on that. You may be, but I don't think you are. Uh, we got Kyle becoming a lore master. Welcome to the lore master, good sirs. I don't think that you'd build a ship weapon system outside of a ship that could be disabled so easily. Probably you could just use parts of the phaser strip. Yeah, I mean, I don't know though. I mean, you could create, the United States Navy has all kinds of weapons that can be pretty easily, not pretty easily, let me rephrase, that could be disabled and has a lot of moving parts. But
Sir? The last thing I expected.
but it's powerful enough that it makes sense to have it, even if it could be disabled easier. You know what I'm saying? If you have a game-ending weapon that can be disabled easier than non-game-ending weapons, you still want the game-ending weapon. Let's see. Bird of Prey 5 says, so did you go anywhere special on your vacation? I did, in fact. We went to a hotel. If you're on my Twitter, you probably would have seen it. We went to a hotel that was also a water park. And we just hung out there, which was a lot of fun. Hey, at Laura Loaded, well slept. I just woke up myself. Well, I'm glad, buddy, because I woke up in the middle of the night from having stomach aches. Well, that sucks. Someone said that I can't answer your question because of anti-tracker. I haven't seen your question, so I'm not necessarily worried about it. Though if you ping me, I think. Living Witness, I always thought it was the Prime Doctor's copy in the Mirror Universe. He just didn't know Federation values he espoused were able to change it. My headcanon, of course. That would be interesting. That would be kind of cool if there was some kind of shift. And that it was Warship Voyager. You know, that would have been so fun if they had done that, and the very last thing you see was the Terran Empire insignia. How much could that have opened up? So you have Living Witness, and it goes the entire way that we see. And then you have, at the very end, maybe you had, the only thing you changed during Living Witness is that there was a shuttle, and the shuttle was destroyed. And at the very end, you see a piece of that shuttle that never came up, that never arrived, and on the shuttle was the Terran Empire insignia. Changes all of Living Witness. That would have been cool. I like that. Man, why don't they let us write? We need to write for them. God. Where's Lorca? Lorca is dead. Prime Universe, Lorca is dead, as well as Mirror Universe, Lorca is dead. Spoilers! Picard knew where to target the cube. It sustained minor damage from the Fed fleet, enough for the Enterprise E to order the fleet to concentrate fire. It doesn't make any sense, J-Wigs. It is completely inconsistent. Oh, you're talking to... Well, you're talking cryptic, but still, it doesn't make any sense. It's completely inconsistent with Best of Both Worlds. Lore Reloaded, I don't think so. In early TNG, you see a power come from the end and then come together to make the beam. Later on, you just see energy blast from it without the charge. So I say no. Well, that's what I'm saying. You see them come together. We talked about that, and they have to touch. Again, they have to power up, right? And so I'm not sure, if I'm being honest with you. I could see them creating it where you wouldn't need a connection. It just wouldn't be as powerful. But I don't know. How fast can torpedoes travel? Shooting torpedoes at warp baffles my mind. Yeah, I don't... It would seem like if you fired a... it would seem if you fired a torpedo at warp, the torpedo would almost instantly fall out of warp and hit the ship. I mean, you do have something in motion stays in motion, but we know that warp is something that requires engines to sustain. You don't just start it and have the engine stop it. You have to continue to maintain the warp bubble. I don't know. Lorca got killed on his ship. Mirror Lorca got heart surgery with a sword followed by a high-power suntan. That would be accurate. In First Contact, the Enterprise E was the most advanced anti-Borg ship. I don't disagree. I thought it was secretly ordered to warp to the battle after the Borg cube sustained damage. Stand down order to fool the Borg. Why would they fool the Borg, though? I gotta agree with the anti-tracker. I haven't seen his last 2 videos. I've been on vacation. So maybe he counters what I'm about to say. But I agree with him that it makes no sense that they wouldn't have the Enterprise E and every Sovereign available on the front lines. There's no reason. If you don't think Picard can do it, remove him from command. Put Riker in, because you're an idiot and you don't want to win the battle, but put Riker in command and send the Enterprise E. There is reason to believe... Here's the thing. An anti-tracker has hit this, and I agree it's not in the movie, so it's rare that you can use it. You okay? Yeah. That it's rare that you can use it. But have the... if the ship is going to be on the Romulan border, it would make sense, because this is either right at the start of the Dominion War or right before the Dominion War. And we know that the Dominion and the Romulans are making nice. And we know that ultimately the Dominion will use the Romulan border to destroy ships. So if you want to watch the Romulan neutral zone with one of your most powerful ships to dissuade the Dominion or the Romulans, that actually makes sense. But they should have included it in some of the dialogue. Hell, it bothered me that Picard did not just relinquish command in First Contact. I agree. Once he realized he had PTSD, he should have stepped down. Sisko should have been in command of a Sovereign class. I think Sisko should have been in command of the Defiant. Sisko works well on the Defiant itself. He would be more suited to using a Defiant to win the battle than a Sovereign. Will Alex Kurtzman save Trek? That is unlikely. But yeah, so I don't know. I think that the technology would have improved. I think that the technology probably was there. They just it wasn't stated, and I'm not convinced that it needed to be stated. I think that's where me and Anti-Tracker would disagree somewhat. I feel Starfleet wanted the Sovereigns out of the fight for the simple fact that they were scared they would lose Earth and would need a fleet commander. It's possible. But I don't... While it's possible, I don't know that the tactics lead you to believe that's what they were doing. You know? Oh. First Contact, I think the fleet was only there holding the Borg so the new Borg killers could arrive when the E turned up ahead of the others. It demonstrated the immense tactical ability. But again, there's not a lot to lead us to believe that that's what happened, but that would make sense. What would have been interesting is if they had done the fleet battle that they wanted to do. They wanted to do an intense fleet battle, and I swear they should have just fired half of the actors that they had and put it into CGI and made it just like a huge fleet battle. What would have been interesting is if they took the plot from Star Trek Armada, or Star Trek Armada 2. I think it's Star Trek Armada, though. So you have the Borg attack a Dominion facility. This way you pull it into Deep Space Nine, you get more people interested. You only mention the Dominion once. And you make it, you show Jim Hadar and you show Vorta, but you're very vague on it. Because if people want to learn about the Dominion, they want to learn about the Jim Hadar, they want to learn about the Vorta, they got to go watch Deep Space Nine. But let's give them a little taste to get them into the other property. They attack a cloning facility of the Dominion. They take it over, and they then clone Jean-Luc Picard. And they make him Locutus of Borg. And let's have this happen in the Dominion territories, because they wouldn't have been in the Alpha Quadrant yet. And so you have that. You have a Borg cube. It says, it comes out of a Transwarp hub. It says we're in the Delta Quadrant, Dominion territory. It shows a Dominion ship. You destroy 2 Dominion attack fighters. You assimilate. You have Jim Hadar trying to fight. They lose. You then show... And here's what you do. You have the Borg on the cloning facility. They assimilate the Vorta, and then it moves to what looks like a cloning pod. And from there, you then have Picard wake up, like his nightmare that he was having, right? So you have him wake up, and you don't know what's happening. And so Picard can sense something's going on, and if you remember the telepathy, the things that he hears in the background, the Borg working in the background, he starts hearing them more and more. And they're at the Romulan neutral zone, and they bring up the Dominion again, one more time. Hey, we're watching the Romulans. We're afraid the Dominion is going to take this advantage. The Romulans and the Dominion are starting to be friends. And then he hears this, and all of a sudden he walks out onto the bridge, and he says, plot a course for Earth, maximum warp. Alert all ships within the vicinity to meet at Earth. And so there's a lot of confusion, but he says, when it's requested what's going on, he tells the Admiral or he tells Data it's the Borg. And so what would be cool is then you then have like a Discovery type entrance. And so you have all these ships warping in. You show Earth, right? And you have all of these ships warping in, one after the other. You have an Acura, you have a Steamrunner, you have a Miranda. The Defiant shows up, even though that wouldn't make much sense. The Defiant shows up. And then right in front of them, you have the Enterprise E show up right in front of them. So you have this massive Federation fleet. And right in just a few second beats, all of a sudden, transwarp gateways or transwarp hubs start opening up. You have like 5. And you have all Borg. You have a Borg cube. You have a couple of spheres, 2 Borg cubes, a couple of spheres, maybe a diamond. And then the Data says that they're being held, or that the fleet is being held, and you see that Picard already knows what's coming. He's sensing something, and he says on screen, and boom, you have Locutus of Borg, and you have Picard. And now we got a party. We got a Borg fleet commanded by Locutus of Borg on Earth's doorstep. And you have the Enterprise E with the Defiant fighting and this giant fleet of new Borg ships. And you could even say anti-Borg ships. Say, have, I don't know, whoever, have Geordi or Worf come up and say, thank goodness we have these new anti-Borg ships. We have the Acura. We have the Steamrunner. How about a dodecahedron? Yes. They would have 6 dodecahedrons. 6 of them. And again, it would probably be pretty costly. I get that. But the entire movie is this back and forth battle between the Federation fleet and the Borg, and they're just beating the hell out of each other. And you need to flesh it out more than that, but ultimately you have the Borg defeated because of all this new technology or whatever. But once defeated, half of the movie is this Borg fight. Once defeated, all of a sudden, the Sovereign goes to warp. The Enterprise E goes to warp. They have no idea what's going on. And it begins phasing, and then Data says, apparently we're moving into some kind of time slipstream. And the ship begins firing. The ship goes back to first contact, begins firing like we saw with the sphere, and then you have Data lock them out. And then you still got a party. You still got what you want. You got your time travel. Hey, babe. I'm Lori. I'm live, baby.
Oh, sorry.
You're good. A Borg cube that is 3 by 3 by 3. Yeah, it's 3 miles, not 3 kilometers. I got that wrong. Blah, blah, blah. But what are your guys' thoughts? I mean, there's just so much they could do. And First Contact wasn't bad. I didn't hate First Contact. It's just, it could have been so much better, Josh Street. Wasn't the Defiant class ship Worf was in command of in Star Trek Armada called Avenger? I don't know. nor do I remember, if I'm honest. I think they should have had the Defiant. It would have been interesting to have the A-Team. Again, cut out half of all of the sets, all the props, all the actors. Just cut out half of them and use that to pay for the A-Team on the Defiant, as well as all of the special effects and things like that. And it would be interesting to have a dichotomy between Picard and Sisko. I get that they don't want to have them versus each other. I get that they don't want to have this horrific, or have this pull, or try to pull away from the TNG audience. I get that. But how interesting would it have been to have Sisko's style and Picard's style, especially since they don't like each other, you know? Mystique the cute blue alien. I feel that the Defiant pulse phasers are actually controlled antimatter bursts, since such a small amount makes a big boom, and we see the Defiant cut through ships like a hot knife through butter. Yeah, sure. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think, well, I'd have to go back and look at it, because I don't think that's, and now that I think about it, because I remember I did a breakdown. I don't know. I'd have to take a look. I like I like the cannons. I wish they had used them more. I know it's special to the Defiant because the Defiant is a hero ship and it needs to be special, but it makes more sense to me that they would have those, especially if they just tear into Borg tech. Yeah. I feel like what you were describing would have been a good first episode for a new series instead of a movie, says Jeff. Well, I mean, possibly. I don't know how far you could go into that. If you're going to do a battle like that, if you're going to make it into a series, I would remove it from Earth, but I would put it at a planet that was a stepping stone from Earth, but probably not one of the original four. And I would have the fleet lose in the first episode. They'd have to retreat, and there would be a Unimatrix 009 for the Alpha Quadrant or whatnot, and they'd be building a Unimatrix. And you'd have Locutus of Borg fighting Picard, and it would come down to tactics. We would see the Borg start to do things we hadn't witnessed before because of Locutus. I think Picard is indifferent to Sisko, and it's Sisko who almost entirely hates Picard. I disagree. I completely disagree. I think the best acting we see in season 1 happens between Sisko and Picard. I think that once Sisko points out, so Sisko's coming off cold, Picard's coming off as the diplomat. Picard's coming off as the, hey, what's going on? Hey, we're besties. Hey, this, that, and the other, right? And so, or not besties, but we're warm. And then Sisko says, we've already met before. And he says, how? And he says, oh, you were Locutus. You killed all of my friends, including my fiancée. He didn't say that exactly, but he got close enough. And I think that the differences between them in that was very, very stout. And both of them were really... you could tell this wasn't the first time this ever happened to Picard, and that Picard just instantly shuts down with Sisko. He can tell that this guy doesn't understand what he went through, and maybe he's even a little bit angry at him. I think you see that in the acting. I think you see that, this guy obviously doesn't understand what he went through, and he didn't do it of his own volition, and he reminds him of all the death that he did. And so I think that there's a good dynamic between the two. By the way, Bird of Prey 5, I forget if I answered this or not. I apologize, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about this. So thank you so much for the Super Chat. Super Chats like these that help the channel go, so please consider doing that. So did you go anywhere special on your vacation? We actually went to a hotel that was also a... it was a water park. And I think maybe I talked about it. Yeah, it was a water park. It was really fun. They had wave pools. They had lazy rivers. They had slides. You didn't even have to go anywhere. It was basically being at a water park or an event. What am I looking for? I'm gonna say water park. It was like being at an event. Hey, Lore Reloaded, how do you think things would change in DS9 if the Federation had a proper military? I think that if you hadn't gone through TNG's pacifism, that the Dominion War, would have started a lot faster, a lot quicker. And that the Federation would not have been as devastated. I think that the fight would have happened at the wormhole, and possibly they might have even been pushed back, in my opinion. By the way, shout out to Logan. Pretty cool. Where were the warship variants of the Nebula class with the additional add-on if the Miranda roll bar with the tactical and torpedo nebula on the Nebula? What? Where were the warship variants of the Nebula class with the additional add-on? Are you talking about at Sector 001? I mean, it's possible that they weren't there. Again, they were ramping up for a fight with the Dominion. This was similar. Well, I mean, it either happened during or right before. So you had Starfleet assets positioning along the Cardassian border and the Romulan border. This also happened immediately after the war with the Klingons, which devastated Starfleet. I mean, just absolutely devastated them. Lore Reloaded. Sisko and Picard would not flow in war. Picard is a peacetime commander. Sisko a war commander. Picard is senior, so would be in charge, even though he is not the best for the job. I agree. I think that would have been an interesting dynamic, though. I do really like the Gene Roddenberry pacifist vision into providing the opportunity for DS9 to show the follies and dangers of pacifism. I think that the pacifism in TNG ultimately showed it to be stupid. Interestingly enough, a lot of what he did showed how silly and how stupid all of that was, you know? By the way, guys, we're going to be ending it up pretty quickly. I won't be doing a live stream tonight. I have plans, so new video will be coming out on Monday, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're back at it. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm ready to get back into it. I really needed this vacation. How did Kirk die? I don't remember. He died. By being kicked off of a bridge, I believe, and he was then buried under rocks. And I can only assume that animals came and ate his remains. Live or already too late, says Tuning343. Yeah, we're live, but I'm getting ready to end it. Was Ben Maxwell and Jack Layton friends in Section 31? I don't know. Did you see Anti-Trekker's new animation number 13? I know you and I helped with it. I just wanted to ask. I haven't seen it, no. He needs to start giving me money for that. I've been doing quite a few videos for him or recordings. He needs to start giving me money for that. I think you don't understand what pacifism means. Pacifism means you never fight. The Enterprise D has weapons, so it's not a ship of pacifists. I completely disagree. I think there are levels of pacifism. I think that you can have a pacifistic nature and not want to fight. And just because you have weapons and you defend yourself doesn't necessarily mean you're not ultimately pacifistic. I think there are levels to pacifism. So I think you don't understand the levels of pacifism. Let's see. Lore Reloaded died on a bridge, fought Sauron on a bridge. His segment fell while he was tried to get to the TV remote. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. Kirk was supposed to die on the bridge, but he died under a bridge. Indeed. I want a Klingon-centric film with war. I just don't think Klingon-centric films would work, to be honest with you. I don't think that they would... I don't think because we have human audiences, I just don't see it, you know? I don't know. I love Section 31. They got Sector 31. You mean Section 31? They got stuff done. Yeah, they did. They took care of business. Taking care of business. Oh my. So yeah. I think we're going to be ending it fairly here. You guys have anything else that you wanted to discuss, wanted to go over, wanted to you know, break down? Taking care of business. What's that from? Taking care of business. Taking care of business. Why did Admiral Netchoff felt Lime a Sector 31? I don't know. Alright guys, we're going to end it there. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'm not going to see you tonight. I might have a video up tomorrow, but it'd be a Patreon-specific one if it was. Patreon-specific next weekend for sure. Monday, we're going to be talking about Transwarp. I'm going to do a lot of Borg ships. I might try to bust out all of the Kit Bash ships too. But, hey, again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded.